I think it's recording. I'm not sure. Okay, hi year four. I'm trying to use some technology to finish reading our class novel. Woo! Which is obviously not by me. It is The Bolds Go Wild. It's by Julian Clary. And it's illustrated by David Roberts. And although I haven't received permission to read it from them yet, I'm hoping it's just because Julian Clary's like super busy doing very important things, and he's not going to send me a legal cease and desist letter. And so as my plan, I thought I'd try to read a chapter a day until we make it to the end of the book. And I thought today I'll just do a quick little recap in case your parents are watching with you and they don't know what's going on, or if you've missed some school and you're a little bit behind, or if you just weren't listening to me and you forgot what the story was. So, in The Bolds Go Wild, we've got our main characters. We have Mr. and Mrs. Bold and their sons Bobby and Betty. You can see them on the cover. Beautifully illustrated by Mr. Roberts, obviously. And they are being visited by their grandma. Now, for most people, a visit from their grandma is just a normal thing that happens. It's quite exciting, but it's even more exciting for the Bolds because actually the Bolds are hyenas who are living in disguise as humans in Teddington. And when we left off, if you don't remember, the last thing that was happening is that Grandma Imamu, that's her name, she's visiting from the Serengeti. And although she's super excited to see her family in Teddington, she's not so happy with the way that they're living their lives as human beings. And she was particularly upset to find out that little Bobby and Betty, to go to school every day, they had to tape their tails down. Well, that's my dog. He's upset with something. Maybe it's taping his tails down. He doesn't like the idea. So, Grandma Imamu said to Bobby and Betty, well, how about you just go to school without your tails taped down for once and see what happens? And the head teacher, her name is Mrs. Dobson, happened to notice Bobby and Betty's tails sticking out from underneath their school uniforms. And later, her suspicions were confirmed when they were standing on the table and their tails were sticking out in full. So she called in Mr. and Mrs. Bold, and she had a meeting with them, and she asked them if they were hyenas, and they were forced to tell the truth, which is yes, they are. Mrs. Dobson had a very interesting question for the Bolds, which is if hyenas can live as humans, can humans live as animals too? And she shows them this picture of her son. Meanwhile, back inside the Bold house, Grandma Imamu was left all by herself, and she has made the loveliest, coziest den in the living room by tearing everything apart, doing some really lovely digging into the floor. She's done a really nice job there. She looks very pleased with herself. So, where were we? We had gotten on to chapter 14. Actually, no, we hadn't. I tell a lie. So, we are here. As soon as Amelia Bold entered the front door of 41 Fairfield Road, she could smell trouble. A woody, earthy scent that wasn't there when she'd left. Imamu, she called. Tony, are you there? Imamu bounded into the hallway and greeted Amelia in the traditional hyena fashion, tail wagging, bottom sniffing, and a bit of rough and tumble. Being a hyena herself, Amelia joined in, even if that meant that her dress was pulled up around her armpits and her turban got rather squashed in the process. Yes, it's lovely to see you again, said Amelia, brushing herself down and putting her turban back on. But tell me, why weren't the twins' tails taped down this morning? There's been a great deal of trouble. Their head teacher, Mrs. Dobson, saw their tails, and now she knows the truth about who we really are. And why can I smell wood and damp and sofa stuffing? Oh, said Imamu, waving her paw dismissively. No hyena should suffer the indignity of having his or her tail taped down with gaffer tape. That's what I decided anyways. Our tails are how we express ourselves. Free all the tails. And so I decided not to bother. And as for the smell that is your sensitive hyena nose, come into the dining room and see, because I've been busy. Mrs. Bold entered the dining room and looked with dismay at the devastation. Oh, goodness me, she said quietly. But despite herself, Mrs. Bold's nostrils flared and she inhaled the lovely smell of freshly dug suburbia. Great, isn't it? Said Imamu. It's almost like home. Imamu, you have followed your instincts and done what I would like to do sometimes, but we can't live like this in Teddington. Humans wouldn't understand. Imamu looked crestfallen. She shook her head. No, I don't suppose they would, but I am a hyena, and I want my grandchildren to know what that feels like. Taping down their tails? It's not natural, Amelia. Living a neat and ordered life? Ridiculous! Amelia nodded knowingly. Humans are animals too, but there's something called compromise, and another thing called consideration. It's what humans are good at, and that's how civilization works. Otherwise there'd be chaos everywhere. So is that why humans say please and thank you? And why they flush their poo down a toilet in case the smell offends anyone? Why they smile when they really want to snarl? Well, yes, I suppose so, said Mrs. Bold, busy thinking about how much it was going to cost to repair the kitchen cupboards and replace the curtains and the carpet in the dining room. Imamu sat down and sighed. Well, I'm not sure it's for me. I'm so pleased I came to see you friend the grandchildren. I had a dream that I could persuade you all to come back to Africa with me. But I can tell that it isn't going to happen. Your lives are here. I can see that now. But I must find a way to go back myself, with or without you all, because this definitely isn't a life I can adapt to. You've seen the mess I made in your dining room, and I'll only do it again if I'm here for too long. I'll stay for a few more weeks. I think I should go before I destroy your home. Amelia put a comforting paw on Imamu. Don't worry about it, she said. Fred will put it all back how it was. I'm proud of my hyena self, said Imamu with a shrug. I can't change, and I don't want to, more to the point. Said Mrs. Bold. Nor should you. But something happened today, funnily enough, as a result of the twins' tails swinging freely. And I think that you are going to be a great help in this matter. Please don't go home just yet. How can I, a wild hyena visiting Teddington, possibly be of any help? Asked Imamu, genuinely baffled. Well, said Mrs. Bold, we're going to need your help with Mrs. Dobson's son. How come? You know how we are hyenas, living as humans. Yes, said Imamu. You see, Geoffrey Dobson, a human, wants to live as a wild animal. What sort of wild animal? A chimpanzee. You're kidding me. No, I'm not. As a result of Mrs. Dobson finding out about Bobby and Betty's tales, we had to confess the truth to her. She was terribly shocked, as you'd expect. Oh, no, said Imamu. She's not going to put you in a zoo, is she? Well, no. That's the strange thing. It was as if fate had brought us together. She told us about her son. Imamu gazed into space. Being a mother is difficult sometimes, when your children want a different sort of life from the one that you've imagined for them. What can you do? Mrs. Bold knew that Imamu was thinking about Fred, and how far removed his life was from her own. She stroked Imamu's shoulder. I know, she said softly, but I think we should try to help Mrs. Dobson. And you can see how different they look from each other. So, that's Mrs. Bold, her name's Amelia, and she is a hyena dressed as a human. And that's Imamu, and she's a hyena dressed as a hyena. You mean you want me to go and meet her monkey son? Imamu said. Yes, said Mrs. Bold. And perhaps, if we can find a way, we can help Geoffrey live his dream. What does he want exactly? He wants to be a wild chimpanzee living in Africa. Now that I can understand, said Imamu, smiling for the first time in a few minutes. Perhaps if I can't go home with my own son, I can go home with someone else's. As I said a few pages back, everything happens for a reason. Was I right, or was I right? And that's the end of chapter 14. I'll come back tomorrow and read chapter 15. Bye, Year 4.